So yeah, in regards to exercise selection, a couple things to keep in mind. One is that we're really trying to do kind of one exercise on each major muscle group. So for instance, if you're working on somebody's knee, you're going to want to do something for calves, something for quads, something for hamstrings, and then if they're doing really well, maybe do something for hips as well. We normally start distal and kind of work proximal, kind of start the whole backup of the system a little bit. So for instance, I may have someone start with doing some calf raises, then have them doing some knee extensions, then some hamstring curls, and then maybe like some sidestepping or something like that with a band around their ankles to work their hips. But we're doing about one exercise per muscle group when we're using the BFR. The other thing to kind of keep in mind is where they're at in the rehab progress determines kind of what stage of the rehab you're going to use the BFR for. So for instance, someone that's initially post-op, like an ACL or meniscectomy or something like that, who's still having a little hard time doing any of their real good weight-bearing exercises, we may have them start with just some quad sets, even with some NMES on there, maybe some glute sets, some isometric hamstring stuff, or whatever they can do, but just real light, easy stuff. And we'll do that first thing. That's like the very first thing they'll do, kind of get the whole system primed, and then finish off with whatever they've got left to do, some stretching, some manual stuff, or whatever. As they start progressing through their rehab and they're able to do more, then the BFR is going to be used more kind of in the middle of the rehab to really try to augment what you're getting with their normal exercise. So we may have them warm up on the bike for a little while, maybe do some stretches, get some range of motion stuff, and then do BFR with kind of the more heavy hitter exercises, have them trying to do their sit to stands, and then some standing hamstring curls, and some heel raises or total gym heel raises or total gym squats or something along those lines. And that's kind of in the early mid phase of rehab. And then as they progress even further, now we're starting to use BFR as more of like a burnout type thing. Once they're starting to get to the point where they can do more functional stuff, when they're getting ready to do a little bit of agility stuff, some jogging things, we may do all that stuff up front and then finish off with BFR at the very end as a burnout type thing. Have them doing whatever they can do, lunges, squats, and again, make sure you're getting everything involved, Swiss ball curls, some hip stuff. All of those things are what you want to include. But again, it just kind of depends on where they're at and what you're really trying to focus on. You just want to use the BFR on the thing that you're trying to work on the most. So if that's reducing atrophy right after injury, you're going to use it right away. But if it's more of a burnout type thing, then you use it at the end of the exercise. One other thing to talk about is progressing the exercise, BFR itself. Just like with anything, you have to make progressions. So traditionally, we're going to add more weight or resistance, which is a way that you can progress BFR as well. The reps are always going to be high and the weight's always going to be lower than normal, but you can still gradually increase their weight as they get better. But the way we probably do it most often is really just making the exercise more challenging. So we have them do a few sessions of maybe their straight leg raises or their edge of bed knee extension stuff. But then after that, then for their quad exercise, we're going to have them do sit to stands. And then a few weeks later, then we're going to have them doing squats and then eventually lunges. Or for hamstrings, we'll have them do hamstring sets, hamstring curls, maybe add a little weight to that, then have them try like some Swiss ball curls or something like that. Hips, again, same thing. You could have them doing some leg raises or some clamshells, then some bridges, some sidestepping. Basically, you want to make sure you're still progressing them, making the exercises harder, but making sure that they're still making progress at the same time. So that's kind of the main things to keep in mind when it comes to choosing your exercises. So then we just want to kind of wrap up and talk about just some last things to kind of keep in mind when you're using BFR on your patients, what we use BFR for, and all those sorts of things.
Yeah, so again, as Dave was talking about where to use BFR, BFR does not replace anything that you're already doing. BFR is kind of icing on the cake. So if you're using it early to make those quad sets better, to get the most benefit out of the quad sets, or if you're using it late to where they're doing, a box jump, or they're doing a burnout of squats or some type of leg press after you've done some plyometric exercises. It's just icing on the cake. It's just where we're plugging in BFR during their rehab stages to get the most benefit at that point in the progress. BFR is this is kind of the big picture. It is a metabolic overload versus a mechanical overload, right? So instead of breaking down the muscle tissue, we're tricking the body, we're overloading, we're creating that hypoxic environment that creates that metabolic overload, and then the body responds to increased strength and hypertrophy. The other thing is the high reps. It's got to be high reps, and you've got to get to that disturbance of homeostasis. If somebody can do 3 sets of 30 and they didn't even bat an eye, they never lost form, they said, it wasn't hard at all. Well, obviously that's when you got to go up and wait, or you got to change the exercise, make the exercise harder. They have got to struggle, they've got to fatigue, they've got to be uncomfortable near the end of those sets for BFR to actually work.
Yep. So those are things to keep in mind when you're using BFR in a clinical setting: band placement, rep schemes, different types of bands, and hopefully you guys will use it and enjoy it in the clinical setting. Thanks.